Hey ladies and gentlemen, Stephen here from Redolessence. Welcome back to another video. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. So now that the weather is starting to get nice and warm and we have our colder days behind us, I'm really excited to be exploring a fragrance by the company Nishane. This one came out last year in 2020, and this one is called Ege or Ege. So make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin my fragrance review of Ege or Ege by Nishane, I do want to mention that if you are a fan of fragrance-related content, if you like fragrance reviews here on YouTube, but also top 10 videos, giveaways, unboxing, special guests, and more, please do consider supporting this channel by subscribing to it. And while you're at it, please be sure to enable notifications by clicking on the bell icon. So here we have this beautiful blue bottle with the gold cap. This is Ege or Ege by Nishane. And so you have the Turkish and the Greek right on the bottle here. I'll show you the presentation up close in a little bit. But this is a fragrance where right as soon as I smelled it, I said, okay, this is a summertime perfume for me, and personally one that I was going to wait and hold off on to wear until the weather started to get a little bit warmer outside, which thankfully it finally did. Spring has sprung, and this fragrance is very citrusy with this yuzu note in the opening. There's also cardamom, there's basil, there's mint. So there's like this herbal heart and this characteristic that's going on in there. And then in the base, there's olibanum, otherwise known as frankincense. And so it's a complex fragrance. At times it smells soapy, at times it smells very citrusy and minty, very refreshing and effervescent. And of course, I'm going to get in a little bit more detail regarding the smell as well. The perfumer for this is Ilias Hermenidis, who is a Greek perfumer. And this fragrance is, of course, inspired by the Aegean Sea. I'm really excited to give you my thoughts on the smell. Let's take a quick look at the presentation. So as soon as this fragrance opens up, it is very bright, very citrusy, and it also has this herbal undertone. So I feel like in the opening, at least for like the first 5 minutes, you get 70% citrus, 30% herbal. And so, like I said, there's the mint in here. There's also a little bit of cardamom. The cardamom, though, I don't think it overwhelms the mint or the basil. So you have this really tart citrus thing going on in the opening. Not overly tart. It's not like a grapefruit or anything like that, or like a bitter orange. You have yuzu. So yuzu is an Asian citrus fruit. It's often used as a garnish in a lot of culinary projects, if you will, in a lot of cuisine. And this one has a little bit of that citrusy thing going on in the opening, but of course, like all citrus and perfumes, it's rather short-lived, and then eventually you're going to get this earthy, vegetal, and herbal characteristic going on in the heart of the perfume. So you have this really fair balance of the basil and the mint, I would say, and it really opens up your nasal passages. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy about mint and perfumes, whether we're talking about spearmint, peppermint, even eucalyptus or geranium. Whenever there's an ingredient in here that is rather minty, it always evokes the hotter weather and a fragrance that can be worn with a great degree of ease when it's nice and warm outside. And so I'm actually bringing this fragrance with me. I know I mentioned this in a previous video. I'm bringing this fragrance with me when I'm going to take a short break. I'm going to be going to North Carolina in a few days, as a matter of fact. I don't know when I'm publishing this video, but this is the only fragrance that I'm going to be bringing with me so that it will remind me of that vacation, if you will. And so I know fragrances have that aromatological effect, which is really cool. But in any case, it has this beautiful citrus, herbal, slightly earthy. I don't find this one to be smoky in any way. I know it has the frankincense in the base, otherwise known as olibanum. For me, olibanum has more of like a lemony pine characteristic, and so I think that that also contributes in its own special way to the earthy texture that is going on in the base. It's a little woodsy at times, but when you really give it a chance to dry down, I want to say like 20 to 25 minutes into the evolution of the perfume, it actually gets a little soapy as well. And so this fragrance, in my opinion, goes through like 3 distinct phases. And so in the opening, it's very tart and citrusy, and then it becomes rather herbal and green, and then the dry down is still herbal and green with an undertone of soap. So that's the best way that I would describe this fragrance. And you know what? All 3 of those stages, all 3 of those phases are very desirable when it's warm outside. And so, of course, for me, this is like the ideal summertime perfume. And I know on my channel, I've spoken a lot about, you know, fragrances from the house of Hermes. And I think that Jean-Claude Ellena is a fantastic perfumer. And whether we're talking about Un Jardin sur le Nil or Un Jardin sur le Toit, all of those fragrances have a very special garden herbal structure and feel to them. And this is kind of painted in a similar way, but you can tell it has a certain level of uniqueness that I really appreciate. And so my hats go off to, or my hats come off to the folks over at Nishane for making this possible, because I think it's an amazing fragrance and definitely one that I look forward to wearing a lot more. I'm really hoping that you have the opportunity to get your nose on it, and I'm going to be leaving information down below to where you can purchase or discover this fragrance. Let's go ahead and finish things off with my overall assessment. So first up, in terms of the uniqueness and the overall smell, this is a really unique fragrance. I was trying to make comparisons to other fragrances, thinking to myself, okay, this has basil and mint. Is it reminding me of Renaissance by Xerjoff? Is it reminding me of Acqua Decima by Eau d'Italie? The soapy quality, is that reminding me of Vodka on the Rocks by Kilian Paris? Is it similar in terms of its creamy nature to Mephisto Gentiluomo by Casa Moratti? Or even that herbal, culinary, vegetal quality that's in here, is that similar to an Hermes fragrance? But the more and more that I try to compare it to something, the more I realize that this is a unique fragrance. It definitely stands out, and so happy to have it in my collection because I always appreciate uniqueness and originality in perfumes. In terms of the overall smell, very pleasant. You're not going to offend anybody. As a matter of fact, quite the opposite. I think people will be drawn to you because it smells very pleasant, very natural, and so it just kind of gives off like this very natural, vegetal, rosy at times, I forgot to mention that, but more on the side of like the basil and the cardamom, and you get the drift. In terms of the longevity, I got 8 hours on my skin, which is not common for a fragrance in this genre. If I dare call it an aquatic genre, of course it's inspired by the Aegean Sea, and so one might say it's an aquatic perfume, but it's definitely a long-lasting fragrance given the olfactory classification that it would fall under. And in terms of the projection, it projected very well, actually beyond an arm's length for the first hour of application. And then I would say at that 3-hour mark, it started to sit closer to like an elbow's length, and it didn't completely go away until like that 8th hour. And so the performance on this one is very good. Versatility is also good, completely unisex. Because of the notes that are in here, it's the type of fragrance that I would feel inclined to wear in the hotter weather, so I probably wouldn't wear this one in the dead of winter. And I think this can also be worn casually. It can be worn formally because it has the natural ingredients in here. It has a level of sophistication to it, and of course this is like an ideal vacation perfume in my opinion. And then in terms of the presentation, love it. The baby blue on the bottle, the gold hardware, and the name, everything about it is perfect. My final verdict on this fragrance is summer is coming up. I know spring just started, but summer, I think, will be June 21st is the summer solstice. Right around that time, I will be making my top 10 favorite summer niche perfumes. This is absolutely going to be in the top 3. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk to you a little bit about Nishane Ege or Egeo. I hope you took something of value from this video. If you did, please do consider supporting this channel by subscribing to it. All you have to do is click on that red button in the corner. And of course, while you're at it, please be sure to enable notifications by clicking on the bell icon. Thanks again for watching. I love you all, and we'll see you soon. Bye.